Welcome dear student. In the SWAYAM platform, my course name is Determinant of Quality Life. Today we will discuss about happiness. Content of these modules are Introduction, Happiness, Happiness and Quality of Life, Domains and Indicators of Gross National Happiness, Weighing an Indicator of Gross National Happiness and Personality Development. Learning objective. After the study of this module, a student will be able to define happiness and its significance in personal and societal context. A student will be able to explain the factors that contribute to individual happiness. A student will be able to analyze the impact of social, economic and environmental factors on individual happiness. A student will be able to define quality of life and its relationship to happiness. A student will be able to identify key factors that contribute to high quality of life. A student will be able to explain how happiness influences various aspects of quality of life, example health, social relationship and work satisfaction. A student will be able to propose strategies to improve quality of life through enhancing happiness. A student will be able to develop a comprehensive framework integrating happiness and quality of life indicators. Introduction. Continuous happiness and prosperity are basic human aspiration. Happiness is a state of well-being characterized by emotions, positive or pleasant, ranging from contentment to intense joy. The United States has achieved striking economic and technological progress over the past half century without gain in the self-reported happiness of the citizenry. Instead, uncertainties and anxieties are high. Social and economic inequalities have widened considerably. Social trust is in decline. According to the Nobel Prize winning economist Stiglitz in 2009, there is growing discontentment of citizens, academics and policymakers toward the way most governments define and measure progress, namely by emphasizing economic indicators such as gross domestic product (GDP). Societies should foster the happiness of their citizens, and it is better to pursue policies to raise the public happiness as much as it does to raise the public's national income. Bhutan has famously adopted goals of gross national happiness rather than gross domestic product, and the world is increasing taking notice. Happiness. Being happy is not just about being cheerful. It is a special feeling that is precious and extremely desirable but difficult to attain. Much of the research to date has focused on establishing objective methods for analyzing quality of life and well-being, relying on geographical and socio-economic aspects related to quality of life, well-being and happiness, with a particular emphasis on the impact of social and spatial inequalities and social justice. Happiness at work, which covers workplace relations and the individual's self-esteem and assessment of their job, leads to life satisfaction and therefore happiness. But a comprehensive model of happiness must account for the personal issues related to each individual, considered fundamental by such a personal development, physical and mental condition, and even spirituality. In short, happiness directly depends on the different dimensions in which our multidimensional. That means quality of life can be observed. Fundamentally, those relating to workplace and residential environment. Happiness and quality of life. Happiness significantly impacts quality of life, influences subjective well-being, life satisfaction, and even physical health. While objective factors like living conditions and health are also crucial, happiness play a vital role in how individuals perceive and evaluate their overall life. It is a subjective experience that can be enhanced through various practices and influences. Since the 1960s, the analysis of people's quality of life has attracted the attention of researchers for many disciplines. Especially in the last decade, there has been growing academic interest in quality of life, which in turn has induced a series of studies that investigate well-being and happiness, with the latter becoming an important indicator of the country's development. Citizens' quality of life in an urban and community context has become a central element of politics in most countries of the European Union, so much so that it is the subject of extensive debate in different scientific fields. In sociology, quality of life is interpreted as a subjective understanding of well-being, taking into account individual needs and perspective. In economics, it is standards of living, and in medicine, it is the relationship between health and disease, along with the factors that have an impact on healthy lifestyle. The health factor in quality of life is often elevated above other elements, although the concept of quality of life need to be understood more broadly. Domain of indicators of gross national happiness described in the Bhutan. First is psychological well-being, that is the life satisfaction. Life satisfaction is a subjective assessment of quality of life in general and is an indicator of subjective well-being, which is seen as synonymous with happiness when it refers to how people feel and think about their life. The topic of the life satisfaction and happiness are currently attracting a good deal of attention from researchers in social sciences, psychology, philosophy, and economics. This indicator combines individual subjective assessment of their contentment level with respect to health, occupation, family, standard of living, and work-life balance. The respondents were asked to say how satisfied or dissatisfied they were in these 5 areas on a 5-point Likert scale. A 5-item scale was used rather than the single items questions on life satisfaction because dissatisfaction in life is usually due to the dissatisfaction in any of the multiple areas of life. Psychological well-being. Under this, we discuss about emotional balance, positive and negative emotion. 10 self-reported emotional items were selected for this indicator. Positive emotions are non-disturbing emotions such as compassion, generosity, forgiveness, contentment, and calmness were included, while selfishness, jealousy, anger, fear, and worry were used to represent negative or disturbing emotions. For both sets of emotions, the respondents were asked to rate the extent to which they had experienced them during the past few weeks with reference to the 5-point scale. Spirituality. The spirituality indicator is based on 4 questions. They cover the person's self-reported spirituality level, the frequency with which they consider karma, engage in prayer, recitation and meditate. Self-reported spirituality level describe the person's judgment on his or her own position on the spirituality continuum. The question on the consideration of karma asks people to what extent they take into account their own volitional impulses and action as having moral consequences in future, just as they did in the present. Here, indicators of sacred activities were limited to the praying and meditation as two separate events, although these activities are not mutually exclusive. All the four indicators run on the 4-point scale of regularity to not at all, except for the spirituality level, which range from very spiritual to not at all. Health, self-reported health status, a domain of indicator of gross national happiness. Questions persist about how accurately these simple self-reported indicators mention objective health and nutrition status, and the extent to which it is affected by adaptive preferences. It is used here as a proxy measures and to complement other health indicators, health day and disability, and is consequently given only 1/10 of the total weight for health and only 1/3 as much weight as any of the other three indicators. The rating range on a 5-point scale from having excellent health to poor health. Healthy days. These indicators report the number of healthy days a respondent enjoyed within the last month. Long-term disability. This indicator examines an individual's ability to perform functional activities of daily living and without any restrictions. Participants were asked whether they had any long-standing illness that had lasted over 6 months. If the answer was yes, they were then asked using a 5-point scale whether the disability restricted their daily activities. The scale ranges from never to all the time. Mental health. This indicator uses a version of the General Health Questionnaire, specifically GHQ-12, developed by Goldberg in 1970. It consists of 12 questions that provide a possible indications of depression and anxiety, as well as confidence and concentration levels. It is calculated and interpreted using the 4-point Likert scale. Next domain of indicator of the gross national happiness are education. Gross national happiness highlight the importance of holistic educational approach that ensure Bhutanese citizens gain a deep foundation in traditional knowledge, common values and skills. A holistic education extends beyond a conventional formal education framework to reflect the respond more directly to the task of creating good human beings. It is important for Bhutans that an education indicator include the cultivation and transmission of values. It includes 4 indicators. First, literacy. A person is said to be literate if he or she is able to read and write in any one language, English or Jangkha, that is the national language, or Nepali. Most Bhutanese who have achieved 6 years of schooling are also literate, and this measures therefore recognizes their educational achievement. Next one is educational qualification. The education system in Bhutan in both formal education and non-formal education. These educational indicators include formal schooling, education imparted by non-secular monastic schools, and non-formal education. The threshold for education was set such that persons have insufficient education if they have not completed 6 years of schooling from any source, including government, non-formal or monastic schools. Knowledge. This indicator attempts to capture learning that could have occurred either inside or outside formal institutions. 5 knowledge variables were chosen: knowledge of local legends and folk stories, knowledge of local festivals, knowledge of traditional songs, knowledge of HIV/AIDS transmission, and knowledge of the constitution. The first 3 kinds of knowledge captures certain forms of local traditions, especially oral and performance-based ones. Responses are aggregated to create a maximum score of 25, indicating very good knowledge, and minimum score of 5 for very poor knowledge. The threshold is set to 19, which implies that Bhutanese should have an average of good knowledge across the 5 variables. Values. This indicator asks respondents whether they consider 5 destructive actions to be justifiable: killing, stealing, lying, creating disharmony in relationship, and sexual misconduct. In a society influenced by good values, individuals are expected to tame themselves with respect to these destructive actions. Moral consequences of virtues and non-virtues are typically revealed through speech, body and mind, and in the case of disinformation, the agency of speech is emphasized. The variable have a 3-point response scale ranging from always justifiable to never justifiable, along with the option of don't know. The value of 1 is assigned if the person report never justifiable, while they are creating disharmony and lying. Responses of either never justifiable or sometimes justifiable are assigned 1. The threshold is set at 4, which implies that a person can consider at least one of the value to be justifiable. Culture. In culture, we first discuss a language. The language indicators a meaning measured by the self-reported fluency level in one's mother tongue on the 4-point scale. Mother tongue is defined as natal tongue, which is a dialect. There are over a dozen dialects. Only in western part of the country does the mother tongue coincide with the national language. Dzongkha. The rating vary from very well to not at all. Since almost everyone seems to be fluent in their mother tongue, a high threshold is necessary to maintain its standard, so threshold is set to very well. Artisan skills. This indicator assesses people's interest and knowledge in 13 arts and craft, that is weaving, embroidery, painting, carpentry, carving, sculptures, casting, blacksmithing, bamboo work, gold and silver smith, masonry, leather works, paper making, etc. A sufficiency threshold has been set at 1, which implies that a person must possess at least one skill to be identified as sufficient. Socio-culture participation. Under the culture, in order to assess people's participation in socio-cultural activities, the average number of days within the past 12 months is recorded from each respondent. The days are grouped on 5-point scale ranging from none and 1 to 5 days to plus 20 days. the way of harmony. It is expected behavior of consuming, clothing, moving, especially in formal occasions and in formal spaces. It arose fundamentally from the conventions of communal living and working in fortress monasteries. Certain elements are commonly practiced among Bhutanese when they interact with each other in formal space. Respondents were asked to rate its importance on a 3-point scale of being very important to not important. In addition, respondents were also asked if there were any perceived changes in the practice of this particular form to etiquette over the year. Time. The balance between paid work, unpaid work, and leisure, along with a flexible working life, are important for one's well-being and their families and communities. First is working hour. The gross national happiness definition includes even unpaid work such as child care, labor contribution to community work, and voluntary work and informal help, etc. In this indicator, all the following categories are classified as work: crop farming and kitchen gardening, agriculture and business, trade and services, care of children and sick members of the household, construction and repairs, craft replace activities, forestry and horticultural activities, household maintenance, livestock related activities, processing of food and drinks, and quarrying work. 8 hours is also the legal limit applied to the formal sectors, since a main objective of the indicator is to assess people who are overworked. Those who work for more than 8 hours are identified as time deprived. Sleeping hours. 8 hours of sleep is considered the amount necessary for the well-functioning body for everyone. Good governance. First we discuss on political participation. The measures of political participation is based on the possibility of voting in the next election and frequency of attendance in community meeting. The respondents are asked if they will vote in the next general election, and the responses categories are simply yes or no or don't know. An individual has a report S in the voting criteria and has to attend at least one meeting in a year to be classified as sufficient in political participation. Political freedom. In 7 questions related to political freedom include freedom of speech and opinion, the right to vote, the right to join a political party of their choice, the right to form or to be a member of association, the right to equal access and the opportunity to join public services, the right to equal pay for work of equal value, the freedom from discrimination based on race, sex, etc. All have 3 possible responses from 1 to 3, yes, no, and don't know. The threshold for all right were set to S. Service delivery. It comprises 4 points: distance from the nearest health care center, waste disposal method, access to electricity and water supply, and quality. The goal is to evaluate access to such basic services usually provided by the state. In health services, people less than an hour's walk to the nearest health center are considered to have a sufficient access. If household report disposing of trash by others, either composting, burning or municipal garbage pickup, they are not deprived. Respondent who answered yes to the question of whether their house has access to electricity are considered non-deprived. The improved water supply indicators combine information on access to safe drinking water with information on the perceived quality of drinking water. Government performance. The indicator pertains to people's subjective assessment of the government efficiency in various areas. To test people's perception of overall services delivery in the country, respondents are asked to rate the performance of the government in the past 12 months or 7 major objectives of good governance. That are employment, equality, education, health, anti-corruption, environment and culture. These outcome-based questions enable respondents to rank the services on the 5-point scale from very good to very poor. Community vitality. A vital community is described as a group of people who support and interact positively with each other. Vitality is sustained through cooperative co-relationship and social network within the community. That's our social support. Gross national happiness assess the level of social support in community and the trend across 12 months. They capture the giving of time and money, volunteering and donating. In societies, to capture the rate of volunteering, respondents were asked for the number of days they volunteered and for the amount they donated. Community relationship. The two components of this indicator are a sense of belonging, which range from very strong to weak, and trust in neighbors, which ranges from trust most of them to trust none of them, with option of don't know. Family. For this indicator, 6 questions on the 3-point scale of agree, neutral and disagree have been asked of the respondent. Victim of crime. To assess safety in the community, respondents are asked if they have been a victim of crime in the past 12 months, evaluated by the simple 2-point scale yes and no. The threshold is set to no. Ecological diversity and resilience. Pollution. In order to test people's environment awareness, a series of questions were developed to test the perceived intensity of environmental problem. 7 environmental issues were shared with the respondent and their responses follows a 4-point scale from major concern to minor concern. Environmental responsibility. The indicator attempts to measure the feeling of personal responsibility towards environment. It is crucial to reinforce attitude that will encourage people to adopt eco-friendly approaches and also to identify any deterioration in the current very environmental aware view of citizens. The responses run on a 4-point scale ranging from high responsible to not at all responsible. Wildlife. The first question of wildlife damage deal with whether respondent consider damage as a constraint of farming. Responses are given on a 4-point scale ranging from major constraint to not at constant. The threshold has been set at minor constant. The second question pertains to the severity of damage, that is crop loss. Respondents are asked to provide an average perceived amount of crop loss if the crop had been damaged by the wildlife. It ranges from a lot to not at all. Urban use. Since rapid urbanization has both positive and negative impact on human life-being, these adverse impact on well-being have been incorporated into the Gross National Happiness Index. Respondents are asked to report their worries about 4 urban issues: traffic congestion, inadequate green spaces, lack of pedestrian street and urban sprawl. Living standard. Household income. Household income include income earned by all the individuals in the household from varied sources within or outside of the country. The gross national happiness living standard domain refer to high condition for well-being than poverty line. In this regard, a threshold is computed from a gross national happiness data adjusted poverty line by the multiplying the national poverty line by 1.5. It would have amounted to new number 14,200 per person per year. Asset. It uses data on selected household assets such as durable and semi-durable goods of everyday use to describe household welfare. Housing quality. The quality of housing is composed of type of roofing, type of toilet and room ratio. The threshold have been set based on the Millennium Development Goal, such as good roofing structure made of corrugated galvanized iron or concrete brick or stone, pit latrine with septic tank for toilet and 2 persons per room for overcrowding, and all three conditions must be met. Weighing of the gross national health indicators. The 9 domains of gross national health are equally weighed. This is because they are of equal importance, so none can be permanently ranked as more important than others. But each might be particularly important to some person or some institution at a given point in time. The 33 indicators are roughly equally weighed, but the subjective and self-reported indicators have lighter weight, and the indicators that are anticipated to be more objective and are more reliable have relatively higher weight when the domain makes subjective and objective indicator. There are equal weight among all indicators in 3 dimensions: psychological well-being, time use and living standard. Threshold. The gross national happiness index uses 2 kinds of threshold: sufficiency threshold or cutoff and one happiness threshold. Sufficiency threshold show how much a person needs in order to enjoy sufficiency in each of 33 cluster indicators. Each of the 33 cluster indicators has a sufficiency threshold, and each person in survey is identified as enjoying sufficiency or not in each indicators. For become a happiness, first we will need to be personality development. First step of personality improvement is know thyself, that is understanding the concept of self. You sit and describe your own understanding of what is self and write in your pad. Don't compare with others for understanding of your own self. Understand thyself in reference to your goal, desires and feeling, my expectation from my family, my office, etc. What make you happy? Recall your experiences and identify the situations that make you happy. Write this and observe yourself throughout any one day and see what proportion of the day you felt happy. Are the cause of these state dependent on the outside factors or the internal state? Evaluate any 2 instances and compare your own past and future and present to what make you happy. Anger. Recall your experiences and identify the situation that made you angry. Make a list of your angriness. Think, is anger a sign of power or helplessness during this anger period? Do I suppress or express my anger? Do I ever regret? How do I control my anger? Recall your feeling, reaction after an unpleasant expression of anger. Think your priorities and values. What meaning and importance do these have for you? Arrange them in order of importance and explain why. Success, recognition, fame, happiness, influences. What would you rather be? Beautiful, rich, wise, fair, and compassionate? I know you arrange in order. Your first priority is happiness. Weakness. What are your weaknesses? Observe it. What can you do to overcome them? Think it. What are my fears, anxieties? Explore it. How can you overpower this? Condensing, attitude, natural acceptance. Do you feel the need to boost? Why and why not? Are you at peace with yourself? Observe and listen the conversation of people around you. How much of I, me, my, myself statement do you hear? If number rich in these statements, that means you are proud and towards self-engagement. Self-control. What type of people, characteristics of people you detest most? How do you handle them outwardly and inwardly? Self-analysis. Do I like myself? Should other like me? Do I like myself? Why? Or if or why not? Yeah, should others like me? Why? Yeah, why not? Self-confidence and peer social pressure. How do you rate your physical appearances? Is it a problem for you that you are not handsome, good looking, beautiful as you would like to be? Would you look yourself based on other perception of you? Is materials, money important in your self-esteem? Think again and identify your goal and desire. How far is your peer group responsible for these? Investigate that. Now, last but not least, discuss about need of body and self. Body is physical, then need are food, air, water, shelter. But need of self are respect, values, happiness, and eternity, etc. Be calm. Do not compare. Respect thyself and other self. Take home message of this modules are: happiness is the fundamental aspect of human existence and well-being. Understanding happiness requires exploring philosophical, psychological, and cultural perspective. It is both a subjective experience and an objective measures of life satisfaction and fulfillment. Happiness is the multidimensional concept encompassing emotional well-being, life satisfaction, and purpose. It is influenced by internal factors, example mindset, personality, and external factors, example relationship and environment. True happiness often involves more than momentary pleasures. Long-term contentment and meanings are key. Happiness and quality of life are closely linked. Higher happiness generally reflects better quality of life. Quality of life include emotional, physical, social, and environmental well-being. Societies that prioritize happiness tend to foster more holistic and sustainable development. Gross national happiness is a unique measure of national progress that emphasizes well-being over economic output. It includes 9 domains such as psychological well-being, education, health, time use, and ecological diversity. Gross national happiness provides a comprehensive framework for assessing societal progress through human and environmental values. Not all indicators of happiness and well-being are equally important. Weighing reflects their relative significance. The weighing system ensures a balanced and meaningful gross national happiness scores. Transparent and contextually relevant weighing is essential for effective policy making and impact assessment. Personality development is a lifelong process shaped by biological, psychological, and social influences. Self-awareness, emotional regulation, and goal setting are crucial to positive personality growth. Developing a well-rounded personality contributes significantly to happiness, success, and social harmony. Self-awareness is the foundation of personal growth. Reflecting deeply on your priorities and values such as success, happiness, recognition, and compassion help clarify that truly matters in life and why. Understanding your weakness, fears, and anxieties allows you to actively work toward overcoming them rather than being controlled by them. A conscious attitude grounded in natural acceptance rather than arrogance or the need for validation fosters inner peace and humility. Observe how much conversation around you focus on I, me, and my, and reflect on your own tendencies toward ego-centered thinking. Self-control is key to handling people or trait you may find difficult how you react both outwardly and inwardly. Such challenges reveals your emotional maturity. Growth comes not from avoiding discomfort, but from facing it with grace, fairness, and compassion. Ultimately, becoming wise, fair, and compassionate often lead to more meaningful fulfillment than seeking beauty, wealth, and fame alone. Self-analysis is the starting point of true self-growth. Asking yourself, do I like myself? Help you develop a healthy self-image not based on other approval. Your worth is not determined by how others see you, but by your own understanding of your values, purpose, and actions. Self-confidence should come from within, not from physical appearances or material possessions. Comparing yourself to others or letting society's definition shape your self-esteem can weaken your individuality. Peer pressure can influence your goal and desire, but staying true to your inner values lead to genuine fulfillment. Understand the difference between the need of the body, like food, water, and shelter, and the need of the self, like love, respect, truth, and happiness. A balanced life honors both, but ultimate satisfaction comes from nurturing the inner self. Be calm. Do not compare. Respect yourself and others. This simple principle can bring inner peace, self-acceptance, and a more meaningful life. Thank you.